Hi, it's Ileana, and today I'm remote viewing Tim Taylor and the Time Traveling Program, early subsets of the program development and experimentation. Remote view Tim Taylor and the Time Traveling Program. Below is a layered remote view with sensory impressions, timeline anchors, and operational notes. Number one, high-level impression overview. A compact human-centered project hidden inside an otherwise ordinary workshop lab. At the heart is a single charismatic operator, Tim Taylor, surrounded by bricolage technology, an outsider's blend of retro mechanics and ancestral, almost ritual controls. The program feels equal parts tinkering hobby and clandestine research program, big on intuition, small on institutional formality. So let's look at what makes this program. Tone, curious, stubbornly optimistic, and occasionally reckless. The program's intent is exploratory rather than military. So it's about exploration rather than military presets or outcomes, I guess. It's to probe, observe, and fix temporal events, but with a persistent undercurrent of temptation to push limits, but not to leave residual marks of specific intent too much and who did what. It's like a nudging program. Just nudge, do small increments of change to leave a better outcome. I think that was the intention of this experimentation in the beginning. Number two, surface layer, the physical workshop. Location, a converted garage workshop with concrete floor, pegboards, and toolboxes. Light is warm, incandescent smells of oil and ozone. Core console, an old metal workbench repurposed into the control console, analog dials, pressure phase based, a handful of toggle switches, an array of mismatched cathode displays, and a central circular plate, the anchor ring. I think the anchor ring is what causes the time traveling mechanism to work. Auxiliary gear, coils of copper wire, repurposed vacuum tubes, and a torque wrench repurposed as a tuning implement. Stacks of notebooks with margin sketches and scrawled equations acts as a single heavy shop door habitually left slightly open, physical metaphor for a hole between times. Sensory grabs, the hum of a transformer, faint metallic tang in the air, the occasional pop of a relay, a persistent smell of warmed brass. Number three, substructure, program architecture, how it's organized. Node model, one central node, the console, with several peripheral nodes, observational beacons, tethers. Each peripheral anchors to a specific temporal thread, an event or short span rather than broad eras. So I think the program intent here was to go into various timelines and change small things one at a time, incrementals, not changing huge things, but just fixing things in timeline rifts and improving situations with better outcomes. I think that's the original goal in the beginning of this program, from what I'm sensing when remote viewing this. So, not going into broad eras, but specific timelines, making changes as you can for the better. That's the intent and purpose I sense. Temporal anchor ring, the round plate on the bench acts like a localized resonant locus that syncs local chronal phase to a target timeline. It's not a door, more like a dialed in echo receiver. So you know the sequence of events that you're going to be tapping into. You're going to be making small incremental changes to fix something in the event, but not fix it so much that it has broad ripples and effects. Fix it enough that it is good and the outcome is good, but it's not hugely noticed. That was the intent. Control schema. a hybrid of mechanical tuning, wrenches, gears, and intentional based settings. Tim's focus gestures, spoken cues. A machine responds to both numeric settings and emotional intensity. Telemetry, no large servers, logs are handwritten, voice recorded, and sometimes etched on metal tabs. The program favors immediate sensory logs over abstract data. So I think this remote viewing is taking place backwards in time. Back in time when it first started, before there was more advanced technology like servers and computers, it's more mechanical, it's more hands-on in a workshop lab. Things are hand-rigged. It's old school mechanics. Because Tim Taylor is an engineer and he worked for NASA and he worked for various programs that have to do with development of space rockets, engineering, medical devices, laboratories. He's been involved in various, I guess, what you can call space programs. So I think we're looking back in time when he first started tinkering with time travel experiments in a workshop slash lab that's informal. It's not based in NASA or somewhere else that is highly secure. It's like personal kind of experiments, starting out small and seeing what happens because he is an engineer. So he has the know-how to get started in this and do it, and we're looking backwards in time of how this developed in the beginning. That's what I think we're looking at here. So number 4, how time interaction feels mechanics subjective. Observation mode. When set to observe, the anchor produces a translucent overlay of the target time above the bench. Layered images, smell cues, and a velocity shift, things feel slowed, the audio is distant. So it's intuitive based. It is based on ability to see perceptual causes, events, to visualize things and interact with the mechanics of where you're going, what you're doing. Limited insertion. The program permits micro interventions, nudges, small physical manipulations, or short bursts of presence. Larger insertions cause feedback, dizziness, nausea, object echoes, and that's understandable because when you're first experimenting with something and developing time traveling technology, you're just starting out. So you don't know what to expect, perhaps. So the first iterations of this program weren't perfect. There was consequences and side effects like that inertial cause feedback of the dizziness, nausea, and object echoes. That can happen when you're just starting to do something like time travel, even micro bursts of it. And it's brick and mortar, like hands-on mechanics. You're jerry-rigging things, and you're only doing it with a few people helping you or on your own. That type of experimentation is just the beginning phases of what I think later developed in a more reality-based time traveling program that likely took place in the Bahamas, where there was bigger labs with, more engineering and proficiency, where NASA was perhaps involved in that too, because Townsend Brown went to the Bahamas with Tim Taylor in this supposed time traveling secret space program. And they visited the Bahamas a lot, where there was some kind of a NASA base or something there. That's what the research shows. This remote viewing is not focusing on that. It's focusing on earlier events where Tim Taylor is tinkering with developing time travel devices and experimenting, doing that in small increments. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at that bigger program. That comes later, I think. We're just going back into the past of Tim Taylor's history with developing a time traveling program, experimenting on his own. So we're going to look at next temporal echo. So every trip leaves a faint echo in the workshop, a small object misplaced or a temperature variance that reinforces that actions have consequences, because this is the first development of him experimenting with doing time travel with jerry-rigged mechanical equipment. Synchronization cost: the more present the operator becomes in a target time, longer stays, greater emotional involvement, the stronger the pullback, a psychological and energetic tether that increases inevitability of the return. What is the inevitable outcome? What is the return from doing time travel? However it's formed. Now, I haven't done any remote viewing on Tim Taylor and the Bahamas time traveling program. I might do that after this. We'll see. But and again, I just did generalized remote viewing of Tim Taylor and the time travel program. I wasn't looking for anything specific. So wherever it took me, and it took me to the past of him developing the first iteration of this experiment. Timeline anchors and favorite targets. So that's number 5, anchors. Personal moments, repaired relationships, a single pivotal decision, brief disasters that can be undone. The program repeatedly returns to narrow events, minutes to hours, not whole decades. So I guess Tim Taylor was just going back in his own lifespan and maybe fixing small things, redoing things for better outcomes as an experiment locus, I guess, for a baseline of where to start doing things. That's just how I interpret this from the data. Typical mission pattern: pick a thread, torque anchor ring, voice a phrase, recite a list of steps, wait for echo overlay, perform micro intervention, monitor for feedback. So he would activate the anchor ring, adjust the tune phasing, use verbal cues to go into the overlay of where he's micro traveling in time to perform the micro intervention of the timeline change. And then you monitor the feedback of what happened afterwards. Preferred outcomes: observation, small corrections, retrieval of a single physical object, or showing someone a brief alternate possibility, a glimpse, not a whole rewrite of time. Like giving a person an alternative glimpse of what can happen in reality if you change things slightly. It could still have a big outcome and effect in time travel. Number 6, people and roles. Tim Taylor, operator. Inventive, tactile, and emotionally invested. He's an engineer, so that makes sense. He's the tuner and interpretive core. So he's the anchor point, I guess, because he's developing this program. His confidence and impatience directly influence machine stability. So if this was based on intuitive, emotional outcome as well, how this functions, this technology, you would have to be emotionally very stable to connect with that type of machinery and that stability. Apprentice assistant, a quieter person who keeps logs, watches for paradox markers, and physically restrains Tim when he gets too bold. I guess, in any type of experimentation, you can get ideas and you can go way too far. So it makes sense if you have somebody there to assist you, so they can pull you back if need be, give medical assistance, or just, pull back the experiment and use logic and common sense. So that makes sense to me, that there would be somebody there to assist him and stop things if they go too far. And that can happen in experiments. It shouldn't, but it can. External contacts, a few informal correspondence, people who supply parts, anecdotal accounts or requests, no formal oversight, mostly informal, word of mouth. Ethicist, watcher, informal, an internal voice more than a person, shows up in logs, as cautionary notes in different handwriting. I guess what happened, how experiments turned out, ethical morals and guidelines, having that internal voice working behind the scenes in the background to make sure like Tim is on target, Tim is not overdoing the experiments, ethical boundaries, his internal inner voice is there to guide that. Number 7, security, safeguards and fail safes, physical. The workshop door can be locked, a jury rigged Faraday cage of metal mesh can dampen some external influences that can happen from these time traveling experiments. Procedural. Before any run, the team performs a 3-notebook sync, aligning written intentions in triplicate. They also have a rule: no emotional entanglement beyond a set time limit. Unreliable fail-safe, a simple mechanical governor that should cut power under overload. Often bypassed in practice because it slows experiments. Number 8, vulnerabilities and risks, operator bias. Tim's belief in hands-on fixes makes him prone to interventionism. Emotional attachment increases risk of cascade effects. Material fragility. Many parts are repurposed and stressed. Sudden surges can irreparably damage the anchor ring. Echo accumulation. Each use leaves small residuals. Over many uses, the workshop accumulates dozens of faint radiative signatures. That can destabilize future operations. So radiative, like maybe radiation signatures, something like that. Social risk. Word leaks to the wrong people. Curiosity seekers, exploiters could force escalation or theft. Escalation or theft. Like somebody can discover this program, the men in black can show up and shut it down or take over their experiments, move it in black budget programs, and it goes dark. And it's outside of Tim's purview. It's no longer in his ballpark anymore. It's taken over by somebody else. That's what escalation or theft means. Like somebody interferes that shouldn't, somebody gets wind of this, somebody's told when they shouldn't, and things go sideways, which it could if you're doing this kind of experimentation in your own workshop or lab. Like it needs to be super secure and it needs to be off the books and quiet. Like I don't condone that kind of maverick experimentation. I think it has too many risks with it. But he was an engineer and still is, so he must have known what the heck he was doing and what kind of risk that might involve to even attempt something like this privately. Number 9, symbolic imagery and motifs, useful for visualization. I think Tim Taylor is a very visual type of a person, and he can psychically see timelines and perhaps even time travel psychically to different places beyond physical or mechanical technology at this point. That's what I'm sensing. But in the past, it was with the assistance of mechanics. So the anchoring, what is the equivalent? Weathered clock face with worn numerals. The 12 o'clock is slightly chewed. The program always skews toward the top of cycles. Copper coils equals braided hair, representing time's binding in the human touch. Human intervention, human interaction, interfacing with timelines, notebook pages. Now, this is a strange word. Palimpsest of lives. Palimpsest of lives. Layers of revisions, blocked out lines, marginalia that glow faintly when a successful run occurs. Palimpsest and marginalia, two very strange words I never use anywhere. So there's strange words appearing in this remote viewing that I'm not very familiar with. I'm just trying to pronounce them the best I can. But it's interesting. So layers of revisions, blocked out lines, marginalia that glow faintly when a successful run occurs. So there's ripples of the outcome effects that occur when all of this is happening. So the symbolic imagery and motifs is interesting. Number 10, notable recent episode, glimpse into what occurred. So I don't think this is recent. I think it's in the past, but it feels recent because it took effect when it was done as an experiment. So for this remote viewing, it might be recent, but it feels like it's in the past when this occurred. A short, almost interesting mission. Tim tuned the ring to a rainy afternoon, projected a translucent scene where a small child dropped a cherished toy and nudged the toy back into the child's path. So he nudged the toy back into the child's path. The intervention felt small. Afterwards, one of the notebooks acquired a smeared water stain that wasn't there before. So he went back in the past on a rainy afternoon, projected a translucent scene where a small child dropped a cherished toy and nudged the toy back into the child's path. That intervention felt small. Afterwards, one of the notebooks acquired a smeared water stain that wasn't there before because he has verbal cues of how the time travel cue happens with the anchor ring. Things are said verbally to activate the mechanics. Tim laughed, then wrote, "Do better," in the margin, an instant of humility recorded like a vow. So, small child dropped a cherished toy. Tim has kids. They're now grown up, but he has children of his own, according to the book he wrote. So, he might have gone back in time into one of his own children's timeline event where, the small child dropped a cherished toy and he nudged the toy back into the child's path to pick it up. So it's probably one of his own children. I'm not going to assume anything, but that's what it sounds like from this remote viewing. Now, I know nothing about Tim Taylor's children or their lives, but this is what came up in the remote viewing. So I am just going by what's in the remote viewing. I have no real life experiences of what his children are like or any references to them. This is just what came up in the remote viewing as information that I'm relaying. Number 11, practical recommendations for interacting with the program if you intend to observe or assist. Approach with a calm, steady energy. Sudden emotions cause resonance spikes. Respect the three notebook sync. Write your intention clearly and redundantly. That's how the mechanism activates for that time travel to work with the anchor ring. If you must intervene, limit yourself to micro actions. Move a small object, whisper a phrase. Larger changes cause echoes. Maintain a physical grounding ritual post-run. Wash hands in cold water. Step outside for 5 minutes and re-record observations in a fresh notebook. I guess it's to clean the energy of time traveling. That there's like little rituals you do to remove that residual energy of the time travel event so you're clean energetically and physically. That's the ritual. Number 12, final read, tone, and trajectory. This is an artisanal human scale program driven by curiosity and an engineering aesthetic. It's more likely to produce gentle corrective ripples than to rewrite history wholesale. The long term trajectory depends on whether discipline strengthens, like having more safeguards, better logging, or impatience grows, riskier insertions. Currently, the balance tips towards optimistic tinkering with a cautionary undercurrent. So he used caution and he used restraint. That's good. Here's a layered diagram of Tim Taylor and the time traveling program, followed by a mission log template. Like what kind of template he used to do this stuff. Layered diagram, surface layer, physical workshop, structure, converted garage workshop, concrete floor, pegboards, and tool chests, core console, repurposed workbench with analog dials, toggle switches, cathode displays, central anchor ring, atmosphere, warm incandescent light, hum of transformer, smell of oil, ozone, artifacts, notebooks, copper coils, vacuum tubes, torque wrench used for tuning of the anchor ring. Second layer nodes, program architecture. Central node, anchor ring, localized resonant locus, syncs chronal phase to do the time traveling in microbursts. Peripheral nodes, observational beacons, tethers, tying to specific events rather than whole eras. Control schema, mechanical tuning plus intention-based commands, gestures, spoken cues. Telemetry, logs, handwritten, and voice recorded events etched into metal tags. Third layer, timeline interactions, modes, observation, overlay of target time, sensory bleed through, micro intervention, small nudges, object placement, whispers, gentle reminders to self-correct events for more optimal positive outcomes. So for more optimum positive outcomes to occur, not revealing a lot of details to subjects, bare basics to create better timeline shift results, focusing on achieving more successful medium of results than previous timeline shift sessions, like what he would say, do better. I need to do better with further sessions of what the outcome could be. Echo effect, each mission leaves residual traces, temperature shifts, object misplacements, smeared ink. Synchronization cost, longer stays equals stronger feedback. So dizziness, nausea, tether snapback, favored anchors, narrow windows, minutes to hours, emotionally significant pivots, personal memories, near disasters. So he was very selective where he kind of time jumped and time traveled and I guess remained with his own experiences of where he would time travel in his own timelines of where things took place. That's just how I interpret it. So, mission log template, session number, example 014, date, local time, month, day, year, operator's name and names of people involved, location, workshop, field node, preparation phase, intention statement, 3 notebooks, sync completed, yes, no, equipment status check, anchor ring, stable, needs adjustment, peripheral beacons on, off, safety governor engaged or bypassed, execution phase, target timeline, when, where, access mode, observation, micro intervention, retrieval. If you're retrieving objects or where you're intervening to do some changes, control inputs, dial settings, spoken cue, gesture, overlay sensations, sight, sound, smells, temperature shifts, action taken, if any. Post-run phase, echo residues detected, object shifts, stains, auditory fragments, none or something occurred, operator condition, stable, dizzy, fatigued, emotional. Assistant notes, if there was an assistant, what did they observe, what happened? You log it. Safeguard ritual completed, cold water wash, grounding walk, log sync. Summary, outcome, what happened, unexpected effects, next steps, recommendations. So everything was meticulously logged because that was important for how these experiments were done, because Tim is an engineer. So he would meticulously log what happened in these experiments from what is shown in this remote viewing. And this is an image of when Tim Taylor was younger doing the time travel program experiments in his own workshop / lab with Jerry rigging the time anchor ring, setting up all the equipment, monitoring it, tuning it, the copper coils, the notebooks, how this time travel experiment program started. And I don't think it started in the Bahamas with secret space programs and Townsend Brown. I think it started with Tim Taylor doing this on his own, then connecting and meeting up with Townsend Brown, going to the Bahamas, developing a more robust time travel program with experiments where perhaps NASA intervention came in, providing them with more technology and providing them with more access to advanced type of, I guess, access to equipment and access to resources to expand this program. I think that's how it worked. So this is the beginning stages of what I think what Tim Taylor went through in developing an initial small base time travel experimental program. So I wanted to share that. Thank you so much.